Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Mind of James podcast. This podcast is about life, love, stories, and loss. Right now, I am just sitting here drinking on a Yuengling traditional lager and chiefing on the vape Raz. This particular flavor is called Vicky. It's a pretty good flavor. I'm not gonna lie. I really like this. But this podcast, I kind of wanted to just get to the basics of what I like to do. That's tell stories, inspire people, and try and get a better quality of life. You know, a lot of people use traditional therapy, going to see somebody. A lot of people use comedy, music. And I've tried it all, folks. I've literally tried it all. I've been to talk therapy. Let me get a drink of beer here real quick. I've done comedy. I've made a few podcasts. And, we're just trying. And I think the important thing is that what you have to know is what you want out of your own life. To start out that kind of started out that way. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is James. I am 36 years old. I was born on May 12th, 1988, to Jim and Julie at Christ Hospital here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I don't really know a lot of their backstory, I'll be honest with you. I know my mom was born and raised in Kentucky, so was my dad. My dad was born to Jim and Ruth. My mom was born to... Here's the fun fact. I actually can't remember or don't know my grandfather's name on my mom's side. They always called him Boots. But my mom's mom, my grandmother, her nickname was Bess, and I want to say her name was Elizabeth. It's ringing a bell. It's kind of funny how you always know nicknames, but you can't remember the real name. My mom's side of the family is a little bit of the wild child. They have 6. My mom has 5 brothers and sisters. So my grandmother had 3 sets of twins, which are my Uncle Scott and Steve were a set of twins. My Aunt Mindy and Jenny were a set of twins. And then my Uncle Kurt and then my mother were a set of twins. And on my dad's side, it was just him and my Aunt Donna. Now my mom's side of the family, wild. Wild in a good way. They are the kind of people that will give their shirt off their backs if you ask for it, but will make insane amount of fun for you for asking. Christmas time with them was always fun because you could always just sit there and watch. They'd give the most amount of love, but yet be so dysfunctional. Like, you could have a conversation with my Aunt Jenny, looking at each other in the eyes, talking straight to face to face, and then she would just look at someone else and start having a complete different conversation. It was wild. It's wild just to watch how their interactions were. Now, my dad's side, another sip of beer. This is probably going to happen throughout this podcast. So, if you enjoy drinking beer like I do, grab one with me. My dad's side of the family, more reserved. Full of lawyers, doctors, and very progressive people. Now, when I say progressive, let's talk about that word progressive for a little bit. They are the kind of people that are very liberal progressive, I should say, And my mom's side of the family is very conservative, progressive, to where it's like, hey, date who you want to date. We don't care. As long as you're good to us, we'll be good to you. You know? And my dad's side of the family is very they have a lot of terminology when it comes to being progressive. You know, all the very fancy lingo. Either way, they're still great people. Love them to death. Always will love them to death. But my dad's side, I remember going to Christmas with them, and it was very traditional in the sense. The adults would be upstairs having fun, enjoying conversation. And the kids would be downstairs playing board games and all that kind of stuff. But you go to my mom's side of the family for Christmas, and it is a wild, wild time. Wild time. It was just so many people. So many people. Like, so my Uncle Scott and Steve, if I can put memory right, so Holly, I'm trying to think of this. Yeah, Holly and Hillary and Allie on one with either Scott or Steve. The amazing thing is I still can't tell them apart. Still can't tell Scott or Steve apart. That's true, identical twins right there. And then Brittany and Evan for either Scott or Steve. And then Mindy has Candace. Jenny does not have any kids. Kurt has Cassie and Ashley. And then my mom has me and my brother Dylan. My dad's side of the family, my Aunt Donna doesn't have any kids. So, I know, boring, right? But my brother and I are 13 months apart. And, awesome dude. My brother's one awesome guy, man. He is, he's a good dude. He's married, 2 dogs. I don't think they're having kids, and I don't blame them. Look what kind of world we live in. Would you want to raise kids in this kind of world? You got to have a really strong wife or husband to raise kids in this world. But my mom's side of the family, they have this, what I like to call dysfunctional loyalty. Which is, they love each other, they are loyal to each other, but they always love to just sit there and talk. And, growing up, I never really understood family, and I never understood loyalty like that. It's so funny. So I've been playing golf with my Uncle Kenny and Aunt Mindy and their daughter Candace, which is my cousin. And she just turned 20. And it's like, you want to impart that wisdom. You know what I mean? You want to impart the wisdom that you got as a person through all your life stories and all your life's challenges. And it's like, she's got a good head on her shoulders and she's going to make something of herself, And I really can't, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But make no mistake about it, if somebody messes with her, I'll break their legs. I'll say that right now. I'll say that on this program. Any one of my family members, you mess with them, you deal with me. But, so my parents, we're going to get to the history of, at least what I think of how my parents met. So my parents lived in Kentucky, and they started dating, got married, had me, then 13 months later had my brother. Now, I was always the happy-go-lucky child. I enjoyed just sitting there, always had a smile on my face. You could give me a bucket of rocks and I could make a day out of it. My brother, when he was born, apparently cried all the time. I saw a video of him one time where he was crying so hard that he didn't even breathe. And it was very funny to me. Another sip of beer. And I still feel that way. I still feel like I'm just a very happy-go-lucky person. Happy to be here. I'm glad to be here. When I was a kid, I was always interested in the why. Always went against the grain, as they call it. I never really did understand traditional things. It's like, you know what, it works, but how can we make it better? It's my kind of thing. I never really cared. I never cared for it. I just didn't. I was raised Catholic. I went to Our Lady of the Rosary school, which is now closed down. But it was very uniformed, gotta have your hair cut nice, all that kind of jazz. Just burped. But I never understood it. I didn't like it. There was something different about me to where I was like, this is not me. This is not me. I am not moving the mic here. Well, we're not. I just didn't like it. Enjoyed it. I was there and I made the best of it, but I just didn't like it. So but I was always that kid that tinkered with stuff, taking things apart, trying to figure things out, and I enjoyed that kind of stuff. I always felt like I would fit in anywhere, but I just didn't belong. You know what I mean? And there's something to be said for that. There's something very good to be said for that. That's not a bad thing at all. It's not a bad thing at all. And I enjoy that kind of thing. It's like making this podcast. I'm the only one in the family that made a podcast. So I'll take it. I will take that enjoyment of things. It's like I don't follow along with the traditional 9-to-5 thing. I'll do it, but in all reality, yeah, I'm always gonna want to. If you put me in a position to where it's like, okay, you have the availability to advance, I'm gonna try and advance. And if I can't advance, or you won't let me advance, then I'll go find somebody that will let me advance. That's how I am. I don't do that whole, well, it's always worked this way. Well, we can make it better. We can make it extremely better. And we can pass it on to the next generation so we can make sure that they have a good future with it. You know what I mean? Because if we're just going to sit here and let tradition be the killer of progress, then what the hell are we doing here? You know what I mean? I don't understand why people don't think in the long game. If you're thinking for yourself right now, well, yourself is only going to get you till you die. What happens after that? Do you even care? Like, if you don't care, then why are you even here? It's kind of where I'm at. Like, if you want to be, something to where we want to make sure that this thing gets passed on from generation to generation, then let's start thinking generation to generation. If we're thinking just, well, I want to make a quick buck here, quick buck there, what's the point? Why even be here? Because, if I ever do have kids, I damn sure want to make sure that they're set up in case that they need something. The whole generational wealth, as they say. That's just how I am, and it baffles me to find people that are just like, well, I'm just here and now, and I only care about the here and now. I don't care about what comes. Like, well, kind of missing the point then. It is good to be mindful of the future, but you also want to be here in the present as well. What I mean by that is be in the present, be in the now, make the best of the here and now to make sure that down the road it's even better for you, or for your kids, or for your grandkids, or for this and for that. Just don't think of yourself when you're out there trying to do something. How is this going to get passed down to, like this podcast, for example? I'm the only one doing it. I mean, I'm sitting in the closet right now with a laptop and a microphone. Let's just say it gets to the point of being a multi-million-dollar podcast. Well, who is going to take over this podcast? Is it going to stop when I die? Or is it going to keep going? Hopefully I have me another James and he says, you know what, Dad? I want to take over the podcast. All right, kid. All right. I'm okay with that. I would surely hope that he enjoys doing that. My dad, he's a truck driver. He drives a truck. If I was him, I would have been like, well, I want to invest into getting my own truck. Getting my own truck and passing that truck down onto my kids. That would have been a good thing to pass down on. You know what I mean? That would have been a fun thing to pass down on. Because make no mistake about it, I would drive over the road just to see the country. I definitely would. I lived in Colorado from September of 2022 to September of 2023. I almost made it a year. And I gotta tell you, there's a whole lot more than just Cincinnati, Ohio. A whole lot more than Cincinnati, Ohio. A lot more out there. And so much out there. And so how are you gonna pass it all down? You gonna pass it down, or you just gonna be like, yeah, tell me? Which is who the hell wants to do that? But getting back to the parents here. So my parents had my brother. My dad was a bartender at the time, and he worked for Kroger's. My mom worked for Health Alliance. I want to say it was Health Alliance. And my mom wanted to send my brother and I to Catholic school. Get a good education, which is what they beat over, these kids, all day long. Like, anymore these days, you can just learn something off of YouTube. You know how many times I Googled or YouTube something and learned it faster than going through a course? You know? I'm just saying. Today's day and age, you can learn anything off of YouTube. A bag of tools and YouTube will get you farther than going through school. It really will. You want to change an alternator on a car? YouTube it. You want to learn how to build a house? YouTube it. Get you the tools you require and go. But, so the education thing really didn't work for me because I ended up going to Roger Bacon High School for 2 years. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. And then I went to a place called Scarlet Oaks, which is a Great Oaks program, which is like a career campus. So the high school you would go to, you would do your classes in the morning and then your elected lab in the afternoons. Meaning I took auto body. And it was really cool because I got to work with my hands. I'm very big on working with my. You show me something once, twice, 3 times is locked in, compared to reading a book about it. We got this. I got this all day long. So, and then I went on a thing called placement, job placement, to where if you go get a job, all you have to do is take your elected. All you had to do was do your schoolwork, which was easy. So I did my schoolwork, I went to work, and then I went home. You know what I mean? And it was really cool. I met a guy named Drew. We still talk today. We still have good times. Haven't seen him in a minute. Hope he's doing good. Shouts out to you, Drew. You taught me a lot, my man. So, what happened? So, we're getting on to placement. Then I graduate high school. Still continue to work for the auto body shop that I was there. Mom wanted to throw me right into college. Like, nope, you're going to school. You're going back to college. It is, you need a college degree. This is ridiculous. You're going to college. And I was a very sheltered kid. I remember going down to Cincinnati State Technical Community College, seeing this guy with dreads. It was a white guy with dreads. And I was like, wow, look at that. That's wild. Never seen that before. Imagine me going to college and never seeing someone with dreads. It's kind of weird, right? It's kind of really weird. So I hated college so much. Nothing wrong with the college. Once again, it's schoolwork. It's sitting in a classroom. It's boring. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. Unless you want to be there. I didn't want to be there. Dumb. Dumb. So, 2 years of that. 2 years of wasted. Getting my beer here. Hang on a sec. 2 years of wasted student loans. Didn't get a college degree. And, you know what I do? I signed up for welding school. So I went back to Great Oaks, Scarlet Oaks, because they have an adult education program. So I went back there, did their welding program. Got taught by a guy by the name of Bruce Shear. Very good instructor. He was my favorite teacher by far of anybody I met. Got on a place called Odom Industries, which no longer works there. Why, you ask? I'm glad that you asked. It's because they had so many OSHA violations that OSHA was just like, you're done. You're done. So that place got shut down. Got on a place called Rotex Global, which was a fun company to work for. But you always run into people that are just out to get you. And it doesn't matter if they know you or not. They just do not like you. You could do a perfect job, 100% complete, 100% accuracy, and they're still going to find something wrong. Still. It's ridiculous how people do that. I don't understand why things have to be so complicated. You know, why do humans have to make things so complicated? I tell you what, if I was an alien and I saw what's going on down in this place, I wouldn't visit Earth. It'd be like the worst vacation destination for being an alien. And I would take that to the grave. Sip a beer. But she, yeah, so I got on at Rotex Global. I spent about a couple years there. Let's just say 3 or 4 at the max. Yeah, 3 or 4 at the max. Got engaged to what I would like to call a high school sweetheart. Shouts out to you. You know who you are. We buy a house, split up, sell the house. Well, while I was in the house, I got on a place that I am currently working now, which is a fantastic company. Sold the house, moved into an apartment. And then about 10 years later, I moved to Colorado, moved back to Ohio, and get back on at the same place, and here we are today. But just know that, like, just because this is probably going to be a short first episode because I'm just trying to give you the outlines of my life so far. But there are going to be plenty of good stories that I get to share of triumph, loss, love, and heartache, and it is just it's like, I tell you what, the life I've lived so far has been nothing but fun, has been nothing but tragic, and has been nothing but extraordinary. And it is all thanks to God. All thanks to God. Ain't nobody, I cannot credit anything on this planet but God. So if you want to take something away from this podcast, this specific episode, take away the fact that God is the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, everything. You know, get good with God and watch how your life is going to just flourish. Make sure that your relationship with God is better than your relationship with your church, better than a relationship with your spouse, better than a relationship with your parents, your children, your brothers and sisters, because at the end of the day, it's going to be you and God. At the beginning of the day, it's going to be you and God. That's And I don't care how annoying this is going to sound at every episode. You know, every episode, every time you see me on Facebook, it's going to be God, God, God. Love me some God. He's the only reason I'm still here. There's been plenty of times where I wanted to take myself out. But there was always that little voice that said, don't do it. I'm telling you, don't you do it. You're going to miss out on some of the best parts of your life if you do it. It's like, okay, God, I'll give it to you. I trust you. I trust you. So I'm just out here trusting him. And I'm just out here making sure that I do what he wants me to do. You know. And always, and I've always been I've always been taught this, and it's always been preached to me. If you do the right thing, it's going to be the hardest thing you do, but it's going to be the thing that's worth it. You know, the right thing is the harder path, but it's the path that is worth every bit of it. Because you learn, you grow, you understand yourself, you become more in tune with yourself. And what's better than that? What's better than that? I haven't found anything so far. I haven't found anything that's worth more than that. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what other people think of you. It doesn't matter what other people say about you. If you know you did the right thing, if you know you did the best you could, and you know that you gave it all 100%, ain't nobody else's opinion matter. Ain't nobody else's opinion is worth what you feel about yourself. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I could care less. I could care less if my parents were like, well, James, you're the worst son we ever had. They don't think this, but this is just a hypothetical thing. If they ever told me, hey, you're the worst son we ever had, you know what? I don't feel that way about myself. I don't feel that way about myself one bit. If God gives you the go ahead, if he gives you the approval, if you give yourself the approval, ain't nobody's opinion matters. Ain't nobody's opinion matters. Because 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, if they think of you any other way, it's because number 1, they wanted a reason to hate you. And number 2, they're not happy with themselves. They are not happy with themselves. They can't stand themselves. They hate themselves. And they don't want to be around themselves. But if you love yourself and want to be around yourself, you got life won. You are already in the winner's circle. It only gets better from there, baby. Only gets better from there. And I'm telling you right now, anyone comes up against me, you're coming up against, the validated me, and you're also coming up against the validation I get from God. So, enjoy yourself. Try your best. Try your best. Try your best. Because it's only going to turn out bad for you. And here's the best part. I don't have to do anything other than do what I got to do. Because all I got to do is sit there and watch God do his thing. And that is the honest truth. If y'all don't like yourselves, that ain't my problem. If y'all don't like what I do, go do it and go do it. Something and go somewhere else. I'm just here trying to do the best I can, and I'm just out here trying to do what God wants me to do. If you're gonna argue with that, hey, that's on you, my man. That's on you. I ain't got nothing to do with it. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, the first episode of the Mind of James podcast. Now, I don't know how long these episodes are going to be. A couple of them could be a half hour. A couple of them could be 15 minutes. But this is the mind of me. This is what I'm thinking currently. This is what is on my mind at the present moment. And this is how I feel about things, you know? I'm going to talk about stories that I've been through, or things that I've been through. Love, loss, laughter, crying, depression, anxiety. And you know what? Hopefully someone can resonate with this podcast and say, you know, I feel that same way. He's talking how I'm talking. He's talking how I feel. And this has helped me. Because I want this podcast to help. I don't want this podcast to be like, well, it's a Debbie Downer. No. We want this podcast to be uplifting. We want this podcast to be motivating. And we want this podcast to help. You know what I'm saying? So I want to thank you for joining me for the first episode of the Mind of James podcast. I am your host, James Allville, and I will see you all on the next one.